Okay, we will reconvene to open session. Welcome again to the regular meeting of the Board of Education of Castro Valley Unified School District. The first order of business for us is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm hoping our student member is with us virtually. Sure, he'll be here momentarily.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
There you are. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
And
America.
Shane is muted, isn't he?
So, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Well, let's pretend we're Shane. And justice for all. Thank you, Shane. Shane's replacement. The board took no action in closed session. So we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda other than the personnel report?
Nope, just the personnel.
Just the personnel report. It's an action item.
I'll move approval of the agenda as amended.
Very good.
I'll second.
Terrific. So moved and second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call on Shane maybe to just wave or raise his hand if he can't speak, if he's available.
Yes.
Very good, Shane. Thank you. Trustee Whitaker,
Yes.
Trustee Kuziak,
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Vice President Theodore,
Yes.
and I'll say yes, which makes it 5-0 to approve tonight's agenda as amended. On to the mission statement, Trustee Adams.
Okay, the mission statement. In partnership with the community, Castro Valley School District educates students in a learning environment that is safe, nurturing, and culturally responsive. Students are guided by excellent, inspired staff utilizing innovative instruction, curricula, and technology.
Thank you. Public comment. The board respects and encourages the public to comment on matters on the board agenda and within the board's jurisdiction. The board fully supports civil discourse and requests that everyone respect each other and their point of view. Individuals who would like to address the board must submit a request to address the board Google form during the start of the agenda item. At the discretion of the board president, speaker cards may be accepted after the start of the agenda item. Your name will be called and you will be unmuted during your turn and allowed to make public comments. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. Individual speakers are asked to limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes unless the board decides otherwise. There are up to 30 minutes of public comment allowed on each agenda item. With board consensus, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed. This meeting is being recorded to prepare the official minutes. To comply with the Brown Act, the board may listen to comments from speakers under public comment on items that are not on the board agenda, but we can neither discuss nor take action on those issues presented. We'll move on now. I hope we can hear our student board member.
Can you guys hear my audio?
Oh, he's there,
Okay, cool.
but we can't hear you, Shane. Oh,
Let me know if you could hear my audio.
You know, we could try to pick him up
I know, I was gonna.
in a few minutes. Is that okay?
Oh, he has to leave.
Has to leave in a few minutes for his senior event.
For a senior event.
I'm sorry?
He has to leave for a senior event.
the education delivered to my own children and the benefits they receive from that. I'm completely humbled to be part of that educational support and also to follow in the footsteps of Dr. Sherry Beats, who is highly admired and respected in the Bay Area, as well as in the state. So again, I thank you, Superintendent Amati, trustees, executive staff, the interview panel members for selecting me, and I will continue to move the district forward with equity and with the diversity lens during my tenure. So thank you once again.
Welcome to Castro Valley. We're glad you're here.
And now, Ms. Susan Shi, who is going to be our principal at Creekside. And currently, she is an assistant principal at. Welcome. We're so excited.
Thank you. So good evening, the esteemed school board of Castro Valley Unified School District, Superintendent Amati, and the executive board. I really want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve as Creekside Middle School principal. And I am truly honored to join the Creekside community to continue the work that the students, staff, and families that have been doing at Creekside to create the culture of academic excellence, equity, and responsibility for all. I'm so excited to meet everybody at Creekside and to work together in the next school year. Again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Welcome. And last but not least, Dr. Hosseini, who is currently a teacher and has been with us at Chabot, and we're excited to have her as the principal of Chabot Elementary School. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Superintendent Ahmadi, Board of Education trustees, and members of the executive team. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I am honored to be selected as the new principal of Chabot Elementary School, and I feel so fortunate to be a part of this amazing school community. I am really excited to serve our students and our school community in this new role as principal. And I'm really looking forward to working together with our dedicated staff, parents, community members, to serve the needs of each and every one of our students and to continue to fulfill our district's core value of all means all. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome to all three of you. We're glad to have you with us. Look forward to next year.
Thank you so much.
So we'll move on now to our school report. We have a special guest tonight from Creekside. Welcome to Creekside.
Yes. We're going to have them come in.
We hope. There we are.
There we go.
Hello, everyone. And I'm assuming everyone can hear me, so I'm going to just go ahead and begin. I see Shane shaking his head. Good evening, Board President Gary Howard, Board Trustees, Superintendent Parveen Ahmadi, Cabinet members, CVUSD staff, students, and community members. I am Jaleesa Eagles, principal of Creekside Middle School. I would like to begin my presentation by presenting the student and family that we will be highlighting tonight. So if we can go to the next slide, you will hear from Andrea Lau, our 7th and 8th grade counselor, who will be sharing and highlighting our student. So next slide.
Everybody in the public can hear what's going on. Oh, and they're presenting.
You can read from the transcript.
Yeah, you can just read.
Okay.
Let's just.
I turned that off, but you can try it.
So to all our guests who are out there, this is a new system and we're still struggling a little bit with it.
Jaleesa?
Yes.
Oh, I think I heard Jalissa.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jaleesa.
Actually, I just introduced Andrea Lau, our 7th and 8th grade counselor, and she'll speak about Samantha Lieber.
Lieber is a current 8th grader at Creekside Middle School. Besides maintaining a 4.0 GPA throughout middle school and earning a multiple Student of the Quarter and Outstanding Scholar awards, Samantha has been involved in different clubs and organizations, as well as extracurricular activities throughout her middle school years. She was also on the Creekside cheer team as a flyer. She has been involved at Creekside as a web leader, PBIS student leader, CJSF secretary, and joined the book club and school choir. Samantha is described by her teachers as an outstanding student and person, a very hard worker, and simply a joy to have in class. In the classroom, she leads her peers in participation and brings an energetic positivity to every lesson. She's eager to learn and even more eager to engage with the rest of the classroom and genuinely hear the other people's perspectives. She has a gift as being an excellent team member and a way about her that brings her teammates together. As a tobacco awareness peer educator, she has led several presentations to students at Creekside, educating them on the dangers of vaping and smoking. She has also participated in tutoring, picking up trash, and helping teachers clean their classrooms and grade. Finally, she has contributed ideas to the PBIS team on how to make the school a welcoming, safe, and inclusive community. Creekside is proud to recognize Samantha Lieber.
Congratulations, Samantha.
Lieber is a current 8th grader at Creekside.
We would also like to acknowledge and thank Bruce and Garland Doogie, the parents of Creekside 8th graders Anna and Maya. Even though the girls have been at Creekside for 3 years, the Doogies have been involved in supporting Creekside for much longer. The Doogies brought the Science Olympiad to Castro Valley, and they have been instrumental in the creation, expansion, and continuation of Castro Valley's Science Olympiad program in elementary, middle, and high school. Science Olympiad is a parent-run program that focuses on hands-on science. Participating students compete with students from around the region and the state. This year, Creekside's team went to the State Science Olympiad tournament and was the highest ranked team from the Bay Area, 7th place out of 32 teams, the best that Creekside has ever done. In addition, the Doogies have been staunch and unwavering in their support for safe sidewalks, bike lanes, and road safety. They have helped organize events such as the Golden Sneaker Contest and Walk and Roll to School, which encourages walking, biking, carpooling, or using public transit safely. Thank you, Bruce and Garland Doogie, for the huge contributions to Creekside and to Castro Valley as a whole. Thank you. So next slide. As the outgoing principal of Creekside Middle School, I want to congratulate Susan Shee, who will be a wonderful principal at Creekside. I'm so excited to see all the wonderful things that you will do. In my 6 years, I have found many things to be proud of. A few are our extremely supportive and dedicated and collaborative staff, our academic rigor, our constant strive to support our students who need additional support, the integration of our social and emotional work, and on and on. Even with the difficulties that we have experienced throughout this pandemic, we have pushed ourselves even further this year by adopting anti-racism lessons that were taught in our advisory classes. This presentation today is about that curriculum. Next slide. Thank you. What is anti-racism? And I want to quote from Dr. Kendi. The opposite of racist is not racist, it is anti-racist. What's the difference? One endorses either the idea of racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either believes problems are rooted in groups of people as racist or locates the roots of problems in power and policies and as an anti-racist. One either allows racial inequities to persevere as a racist or confronts racial inequities as an anti-racist. There is no in-between safe space of not racist. We acknowledge that this is very difficult work. It takes courage, self-reflection, understanding that we may not have created this problem of racism, but that any problem worth solving is a problem worth acknowledging, talking about, and deliberately working on. Creekside staff have taken on this problem with the support of our superintendent, our board, education services, all of the district office. The support is so important and necessary in order to do this work. So thank you for that. Next slide, please. Creekside has the benefit of 3 quite amazing educators working on our curriculum. Each of these 3 women bring their own strengths, expertise, and experiences to this work. They work tirelessly to create lessons that address necessary issues, are accessible, and developmentally appropriate for our students, and in a format that's easy for our teachers to deliver. Next slide, please. So during our advisory classes, teachers teach social and emotional lessons as well as our anti-racism curriculum. This curriculum is organized in a consistent, clear manner. And here are some of the pieces of it. Next slide. Before each lesson, we talk about why we're teaching this important curriculum. We live in diverse communities. We need to do better. We strive to be lifelong learners. We also quote Ed Code, which speaks to the need for educational activities that counter discrimination on campus. Next slide. Norms are reviewed to establish safety in all of our classes with our students. Next slide. We review the previous lesson's main content. This is just one example of it, what we can and can't control. Next slide. Vocabulary and definitions are also often a part of the lessons, understanding that many of these words are thrown around, but emphasizing the importance of understanding what they actually mean. Next slide. The objective of the lesson is always defined so that students and teachers understand what the goal of the lesson is. Our lessons have dealt with microaggressions, understanding bullying, bias, and injustice, coping strategies, as well as many other topics. Next slide. So we asked our students, what can we do to make our school more anti-racist? And so the quotes that you see here are directly from them. So one quote was, we can start normalizing learning about the history of people of color as bigger units in class. Spread awareness and not be a bystander. Also speak up, be open to change. Inform people about different cultures and they might find it cool. We should have more lessons like advisory slides and encourage people to stand up and get involved. There has to be more action and doing when it comes to racism, and so on and so forth. Next slide. So this last slide is a slide, well, actually it's a video of students speaking to 3 questions. 1, how has the anti-racism lessons affected you? 2, how have these lessons helped to have a more inclusive school at Creekside? And 3, what have you enjoyed about advisory lessons this year? And so if you can go ahead and play that video.
Hi, my name is Luna and I'll be answering the questions, and Xenia is going to be reading them.
How have the social, emotional, and anti-racism lessons affected you?
They've affected me because I learned a lot about the history and like how racism works. So now I can use this knowledge to make a part in preventing it and help and support others who are being the subject of the racism.
How have these lessons helped us to have a more inclusive school?
I think that if people learn more about the disadvantages of racism and how bad it gets and stuff, they might be more sympathetic to others who are part of the victim category and might want to do more to help, and might want to look for more diversity in school and stuff.
What have you enjoyed about advisory lessons this year?
I've enjoyed learning all about it. Like, now I used to be like super like involved in like trying to stop everything and trying to stop all the issues, and learning more about it really is going to help that when I grow up, and I bet it'll help others too who want to support organizations and help those in need and those who are victimized, because God knows we need it. Okay, thank you. This is Xenia, and this is me, Luna, and I hope you have a good day.
How have the social, emotional, anti-racism lessons affected you? Watching these videos helped me learn this stuff is real and my generation can work to solve it. I can also relate to these situations more, and it can help me put myself in other shoes. How have these lessons helped us to become a more inclusive school? By showing these videos and teaching kids about like racism and social stuff, it shows that we're trying to include everyone and learn about others' situations. What have you enjoyed about advisory lessons this year? I really enjoyed listening to my classmates' responses and relations to the videos. I like reading what they say, and I like when we all like communicate together.
Hi, my name is Nika Polizos. The social, emotional, and anti-racism lessons has affected me by letting me know that there is so much I can do to help people and that people need our help. It's made us more of an inclusive school because we are talking about this topic, and I think it's letting us know that we can do small little things to help people and they can feel much more honored that people are willing to help them. I like advisory because it's a way to bond with my classmates, and I've gotten to know a lot more about them than I did on the first day. Bye.
These advisory lessons have helped the school to understand that this stuff is actually happening and that there can be a big change. These advisory lessons have affected me by letting me know that I can do so much to be a solution of the problem. What I really enjoyed about these advisory lessons is just listening to my classmates' answers and seeing what they think that they can do to be a solution.
I really enjoyed these social emotional anti-racism lessons because it's been really nice to be able to ask your questions in a welcoming environment and become just more educated on these topics. And I think I've definitely become more aware about some of these topics. So I think it's been really helpful and beneficial for me and my classmates.
Thank you, Creekside
Hi,
students.
my name is Luna and I'll be answering the questions, and Xenia is going to be reading them.
Thank you, Creekside students. So you got a chance to hear from some of our students about how advisory has affected them. We have also dealt with some of these topics during our staff meetings. And so we have all learned and grown quite a bit. And so again, I just want to thank the board and our district for really opening their arms to this work and prioritizing it. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
We should take comments now on the school, I think. So anybody?
I wanted to congratulate Samantha, and thank you to Garland and Bruce Doogie. You both have really committed yourself to this district, so congratulations, and we really appreciate all the work that you've done. And Principal Eagles, I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you have done at Creekside. It shows in the commitment that you have to diversity and equity, and this anti-racism work and social emotional work is so important. And so wanted to thank you for everything that you and your staff are doing, and appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, first off, I'd just like to congratulate Samantha, and Bruce and Garland are amazing for all the contributions they've made to our community. And I want to thank them for inviting me to learn more about the Science Olympiad. And it's really great to see that type of work. This has been a really tough year, Jaleesa. And I shared this with you last week, how when you spoke up last summer at one of the marches we had in our community, it gave me so much hope. And I was so proud to know that my son would be going to your school. And I am so grateful to learn more about the work that you've done in our school community at Creekside. And I'm so grateful for that. And I want to thank you for your service to our community and to those students. I want to thank you for showing me Creekside last week. It was a real pleasure to get to know you and to see your commitment. It really reflects what this community needs and where we're going as a community. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
One of my favorite slides in your presentation, Ms. Eagles, was the slide that said "Be the change." And thank you so much for giving our students the tools to be the change. It's very courageous of you to implement this program in your school, and I'm so grateful for that work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Creekside. So I actually was a teacher there one year for one period teaching math. It was a time at which I was working part at Redwood and then a bit at Creekside, and I got a parking ticket there. I remember pulling out of there, which I fought and won. So I just want to mention that. Of course, congratulations to Samantha and to Bruce and Garland Doogie. I see you guys everywhere in our community, helping and advocating for what's right in Castro Valley. It's really wonderful that you got this award. And those advisory lessons, those seem really marvelous, and you could tell that the kids really do appreciate them, and all of the good lessons that are in there, plus their chance to talk to other kids, not about academic subjects, but about other types of subjects, and get to know each other and connect to them and to their school as well. Wonderful job, and wonderful principal too at Creekside. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'll start by congratulating Samantha as well. Great job being a peer helper and counselor and all the good work that you're doing. While Mr. and Mrs. Doogie have a very special place in my heart because they have been everywhere. Science Olympiad and all of the support with their team, not just in middle and high school, but elementary. But the other piece that I think was mentioned as well, the safety, what is happening and all of the really improvements that we have been able to see the last few years. He has been a great partner wherever I've been at meetings and beyond. Both of us are also on a board with the county. I think what he has done, really knowledgeably sharing the information and being relentless about what needs to happen. So I want to thank both Mr. and Mrs. Doogie for their support. I think this is something that we should really be proud of in our school district. The social emotional lessons and anti-racist lessons that were created this year with leadership at services, Marion Meadows and the team have been phenomenal. We have shared them actually with, there are other districts that want to come and learn from the group. But what I keep thinking about the importance of that work, as you have all said, in addition to what you heard, when we open our minds, those neurons keep working in all the other areas, the academic areas as well. When children feel safe, when they know they can express their ideas, that carries over to every academic subject as well. In addition to just being wonderful human beings and making this world a better place. I was writing down all the things that you heard from kids, learning, it's reading, it's writing, it's history, it's speaking, it's listening, all these wonderful skills. So congratulations for a job well done. And then Jaliza, she has been an amazing leader, not just at Creekside, but district-wide in a lot of the equity work that we have continued to do, from curriculum to all sorts of things that we've been able to accomplish. So I want to thank you very much for your just amazing support and really sharing your expertise with us to improve our program. So congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah, so I will just say that I agree with everything that my colleagues have said here. And Ms. Eagles, we really appreciate your work over at Creekside and of all your team, especially in trying to translate all means all into reality in our school district and in the world. Congratulations to Samantha. Good luck in your future here in the school system and elsewhere. And thanks to Bruce and Garland, who have done such remarkable work in the district, just really amazing what they've done. So that's really terrific. So congratulations to everybody. And thanks to Creekside for a terrific report and for great progress over there. So we'll move on to item B, our Alameda County Office of Education Classified Employee of the Year nominees.
You're going to have everybody in. Next time, everybody in. You found it. But if he's in his office, yeah, how is it pronounced? Can you just Thank you, Dustin.
Glad you're here.
All right, well, it's a pleasure to be here in person. Thank you so much for having me. Luckily, I was right down the hall, so.
We're very happy.
Well, it is a pleasure to be with you tonight in person to present 3 very special awards. And we're going to start tonight with the Classified Employees of the Year. So the Classified Employee of the Year program is sponsored by the Department of Education, and it highlights the significant contributions that our classified employees make each and every day to our schools and most importantly to our students. So this year, Castro Valley has nominated 6 classified employees for recognition. Next slide. All right. So starting for our skilled trades worker, Peter Carty. You see this great picture of Peter in action here. Next up, we have Kathy Vanderveer for paraprofessional. James Cockman, bus driver from Transportation Services. And then the next 3 honorees were not only selected by Castro Valley, but they were actually selected also by Alameda County Office of Education as the county classified employees of the year. So we have Bonnie Byrne, who's our lead cafeteria worker at Marshall. We have John Gaffett, buildings and grounds worker at Chabot for custodial and maintenance services. And finally, we have Natalie Hung, elementary school secretary at CVE for clerical and administrative. So it is a pleasure to join the governance team in recognizing our classified employees of the year. So the next 2 awards tonight are presented in conjunction with ACSA, which is the Association of California School Administrators. And in addition to serving as Director of Human Resources, I also have the privilege of serving as the president of our Castro Valley ACSA charter, the Castro Valley School Administrators Association. So since we were not able to have an in-person award ceremony this year, Superintendent Amati and I got to go around and personally deliver each person's award to them. So you're going to see the pictures in this next slide deck were from our site visits over the last couple of weeks. So here we go. The following leaders were nominated by their peers for recognition for as ACSA Administrators of the Year. So for middle grades principal, Ms. April Wong. Elementary principal, Pat Hansen-Schmidt. Secondary co-principal, Pam Wolf from Creekside. We have a central office administrator of the year, Sharon True Quince, our director of facilities. Valuing Diversity Award, Doris De La Torre, principal of Van Noy Elementary School. And then we have classified leader of the year, Gary Krebs, our director of MOT. And Gary was also selected by ACSA Region 6 as the region winner for classified leader of the year. Next, we have special education administrator, Yoko Ostreicher. And Yoko was also selected as the region winner for Region 6. And last, but certainly not least, we have our own superintendent, Parveen Amati, was selected by the Region 6 ACSA board as the recipient of the Nels Nelson Award for her significant contributions and leadership within ACSA Region 6. Congratulations. Yes, and as you probably know, in addition, in recognition of her outstanding leadership, Parveen was elected by state ACSA as the next state ACSA vice president. All right, and so our final award this evening is a very special one. And I think maybe the first time that we've given this award here in Castro Valley, and it is the ACSA Every Student Succeeding Award. And so this is an award that is given to a student who has raised who has succeeded against all odds and beyond expectations, and simply won the hearts of the administrators at the school that they attend. So this year, we were able to recognize an amazing Castro Valley High School student. This is Frida Valise, and Frida is currently a junior at Castro Valley High School, where she is a member of the cross-country team, serves as a peer mentor for program 3C, which is connecting and celebrating cultures. Frida came to CVHS from Guatemala in January of 2020, and her teachers describe her as a very special student who was intellectually curious and deeply committed to education. She's never afraid to ask questions and loves reading, and she is consistently positive and respectful to all students and staff. She's known for her strong work ethic, sweet personality, and willingness to engage in every lesson and activity. She's a role model and encourages other students to always do their best. And in addition to this award from AXA, she was also given in total $400 in gifts from AXA Region 6 and the Castro Valley School Administrators Association. So it is a pleasure tonight to join the governance team in recognizing Frida Valise.
Yes.
First of all, thank you. Dustin does such a fabulous job leading this work. And I think that the day, when we were going around giving everybody their certificates, it was just so wonderful to see. I mean, people work really hard, and once in a while, these recognitions really go a long way. And then when we went to see Frida, it was just beautiful. We've never had this happen. I'm just so glad. Thank you for making sure that we actually followed up on these awards for the student, and she's just incredible. So pleased, so honored to have a student actually be selected, as well as our administrators. And having so many administrators selected for the region is a huge deal. So Mr. Krabs and Yoko, just wonderful. So thank you so much for the presentation.
Great. Well, congratulations to everyone. Would like to point out also one thing that wasn't said, and that is Ms. Amati will be state vice president of AXA next year, which means the following year she'll be president of the state AXA.
The following year is another step, and then the president.
Okay, you're on your way.
I'm on my way, but.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6A. Do we have a representative from CSEA here tonight? We'll give you a moment to.
I am here. Can you hear me? You might not be able to see me, but I am here. Okay.
Oh,
there we go.
Robin, welcome.
You get both ways. Thank you, Board President, to the members of the board, to our Personnel Commission commissioners, Superintendent Amati, administration, folks past and present, and maybe even future here sometimes, parents, students, counselors, and the community. Castro Valley loves the situation and our kids. Our classifieds, congratulations to our region area winners, and all our wonderful, wonderful administrators. You folks have gotten us through an incredible year, more ways than one. And we are coming to the end of or the beginning of summer, the end of the school year. But classified employees do not just work during in-class sessions. We have a lot of 12-month employees that year-round work toward maintaining our district, the facilities, the places we are, and all the registration and things that need to happen year-round. We thank them and we thank you for having the work for us to do. That was one of the main things this last year plus, was that you saw it and saw it as appropriate to keep us all together as a team as much as we could be there, whether it was in person, on Zoom, emails, in all the ways that Castro Valley has been a leader and shown leadership in a time where nobody really knew what was going to happen or how we were going to get through it. I am thrilled that we've made it to the end of May, the end of school for the 2021 year. And I wish you good and safe travels as we keep going and get ready for the next time we are together. Thank you. The retirement celebration for the district was delightful. And it was a nice chance to at least say goodbye. It has meant a lot to be a part of Castro Valley as an employee for 18 years, but 35 years, we have lived in this district and had kids come through. It is a wonderful time that will not be forgotten. And again, thank you everyone for all those little things and big things that you have done to make Castro Valley Unified School District what it is.
So thank you for all your comments. Appreciate those. Do we have a representative from CVTA? We do not tonight. Oh, I think feedback. Do we have anyone who wants to talk about items not on the agenda?
No.
We do not. Very good. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Lavender.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Lavender.
I just want to congratulate Canyon Middle School for their new course of study for Intro to Ethnic Studies. I'm excited to see that taking place.
Thank you. Am I off now? Now I can't hear myself. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll here. Mike?
Yes.
Lavender?
Yes.
Ollie?
Yes.
Dot?
Yes.
And I'll say yes, so the consent agenda is approved 5-0. And now we'll move on to item 9, which is to give the board and everybody a 5-minute recess. So it is, as I see it, it is 7:52. So how about 7:58? Thank you very much. We'll be back. Okay, we are back and we are down to item 10. 10A is a resolution certifying the mitigated negative declaration under CEQA for the Creekside Middle School recreational space project. This might be, am I on? So is this Susie, I guess?
Yes, thank you very. Good evening, and I am going to turn it over to Sharon True-Quince, the Director of Facilities. She's been working with our consultant, Greg, who will join us also. I see him, and to present. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharon.
Okay, great. Thank you, Susie. So so I would just like to introduce our project and our consultant, and he will take it from here. So we're presenting on the Creekside Middle School recreational project, and per CEQA, we have gone through all of the different processes. So we're kind of in this last phase in terms of the presentation to you and asking for certification or approval. So with that, I will give it over to Greg Goodfellow from PlaceWorks to kind of give you an overview on the CEQA process and our report. So you can take it from here, Greg.
Thank you, Sharon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you to the board. It's great to be back here again. Susie, I understand I'll ask you to move the slides forward. Is that correct? Okay, I'm here to give a quick overview of the project, as Sharon mentioned, and the CEQA process and the review. Very quickly, as I think many of you know, CEQA is the state's primary environmental protection law, 50 years since it's been enacted. It requires that public agencies, such as the school district, analyze and disclose environmental impacts of projects that have any form of physical effect on the environment. And the school district, it has completed CEQA review of the Creekside Middle School recreational space project in the form of a mitigated negative declaration. And I'll get more into that on the next slide. All right, so what is a mitigated negative declaration? Well, like all CEQA documents, an MND is an informational document that does not approve or deny the project. That's important to remember. An MND identifies mitigation measures to reduce all potential impacts to a less than significant level. And it's always paired with a mitigation monitoring and reporting program to ensure that these mitigation measures are implemented, monitored, and documented. And of course, the MND must be certified by the lead agency prior to project approval. And I'll add it also that the reason an MND was developed for this project was that it was decided early on that the project would have no unavoidable significant impacts, which of course would have triggered a full environmental impact report. Next slide, please. All right, a quick overview of the plan. I know it's hard to see on this slide, but basically this will be an upgrade to the 2 recreational fields, including new turf and new irrigation at the school. The upper field is going to have a new 400-meter track and soccer field with a new accessible path around it and a flag football field. The lower field, new turf, new irrigation, upgraded softball fields with new clay, a full-size soccer field, wonderful new facilities. There'll be an accessible concrete path between the 2. They are on different elevations, so there'll be some significant grading work between the 2 to keep them level. And then the project also has new truck access and a series of other circulation and utilities upgrades. Next slide. All right, like all CEQA reports, there's a number of environmental topics assessed in this document: aesthetics, air quality, greenhouse gases, cultural and biological resources, geology, hazardous materials, hydrology, land use impacts, noise impacts, population and housing, public services such as police, fire, and library services, transportation impacts, of course, utilities, and wildfire. And what you see, the image here is an aerial shot of the boundary of the project, which of course is not the entire school, just those recreational elements. Next slide. All right, what did we find? Well, nothing surprising. Basically, we found a series of potentially significant impacts that would be found to be entirely insignificant with proper mitigation. The first one being air quality. We did find one potential impact from construction dust that would be fully mitigated by traditional Bay Area Air Quality Management District construction best practices. Nothing new. Let's water down the dust and adhere to construction timing. For biological resources, we did find 3 potential impacts related to construction and tree removal within an area of special status species. I'll let you know that those areas of special status species were not right there in the construction area, but nearby. And also very normal, we found that they could be mitigated by what we call compensatory planning, construction response, and surveys. Those really come down to, quote, if situations. If a special status species is located, let's bring a biologist in to make sure it's incorporated and not disturbed during nesting season. If active nests are found, let's establish appropriate buffers between those nests and construction and make sure that surveys are completed. Also very normal. Next slide. We also found some potentially significant impacts that would be found to be fully insignificant with mitigation in terms of cultural, paleontological, and tribal resources. Also very normal, quote, if situations. If we find cultural artifacts, if we find paleontological resources or tribal resources, stop work, bring in an expert and make sure that these can be mitigated, excuse me, and reported. For geology and soils, this was something a little more interesting. We found one potential impact related to expansive soils under the site. Expansive soils are very common in the Bay Area, soils that could expand when they get wet and have a harder time contracting. We did bring in a geotechnical engineer who did a report and who found that just by some simple fill work, footing work, and concrete work, combined with good drainage, those impacts would be fully mitigated. Next slide. All right, this brings us to the public comment period, the transparency part of CEQA. We did hold a 30-day public comment period as well as a public hearing from April 17th to May 17th. And this is so controversial that we received no comments. Always a wonderful thing. Obviously, this is supported by the public. And next slide. That brings me to the end of my presentation. And from what I heard earlier from Creekside, this school definitely deserves this project.
Lavender?
I just wanted to reiterate what a great CEQA document this is, and I'm glad to see the mitigation measures that were put in place. And thank you for the report.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Dolly?
Yes, so I read through the whole report, had met with you guys, and it's really an excellent report that you've made. And I'm sure the fields at Creekside will be really well done.
Thank you so much. And of course, most of that goes to Sharon.
I just want to really thank you for your presentation and thank Ms. Susie Chan and Mrs. True Quince for this work. And I'm excited about seeing the project come to fruition. So thank you.
Yeah, thank
All
you
right,
very
thank
much
you for your time, board.
I mean, this is a great project. I think it'll really improve Creekside's athletic fields, and it's nice to know that it can be moved forward without any problems and that we're playing by the rules. So thanks very much for a great report.
Of course.
So we'll move on to item 10B. Superintendent, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an action item? Oh, excuse me. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I'd make a motion that we adopt the resolution.
Very good. Thank you, Michael.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lavender. You guys are playing tag team tonight or something? Okay, so we moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll here. Mike?
Yes.
Lavender?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Dot?
Yes.
And I'll say yes, so that resolution is adopted 5-0. Now we'll move on, hopefully, to item 10B and an update of the roadmap.
I'm going to hold it so I can see the presentation.
Oh.
update, as usual, we have an update on at every board meeting for opening for the 21-22 school year. But I always start with what's happening right now. So next slide. So at this point, let's go to the next slide. Thank you. We look really great. Alameda County has made wonderful strides. We should be in yellow sometime soon. And perhaps, you know, by the time we get to that point, June 15th, we will have, you know, we're expecting the governor to actually, you know, remove the tier system and open up more. Next slide. So end of the year update, graduations, promotions, and end of the year events have been planned, and we've already been to 2 today. Testing is available still at CFA Monday through Friday from 12:30 to 6:30. 100% of our staff, this always makes me so happy, that have had access to be vaccinated. And then ages 12 and up are now eligible for vaccination. And just again, reminding people that Safeway is coming to vaccinate individuals, and there's been information that has been sent to families over and over again. It's going to be at Independent Elementary School on Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I know Friday is a busy day, and there's a link on our presentation actually that's on the website. So next slide. Over the summer. So over the summer school is in session from June 7th to July 8th. Testing will be available. COVID testing will be available throughout summer school. And we are obviously preparing for 21-22. We're going to send information out to families and updates throughout the summer. So I want to encourage all families to, I know it's summertime, but to read and kind of pick up on the information that we're sending out. And then, of course, information including registration, guidelines, logistics from each school will be sent to each school community. Next slide. So for next year, obviously, we are planning full in-person 5 days a week. CDC guidelines for health guidelines are out, and you have all seen them. We are still waiting for the California Department of Public Health to actually give us some additional guidelines for schools, because the guidelines that you've seen is for public. And as you see, for example, even outside in our school district, right now, we still have to wear masks because of OSHA requirements. So those OSHA requirements are also supposed to be updated by the end of this week, I believe. So let's go back. That's okay. So we'll continue to monitor things. We'll continue to obviously take a look at anything that's sent to us and or discussed at the public health meetings. But legislation is basically going to be finalized by mid-June to clarify allowance and requirements for full virtual. So the main option, the goal for all school districts in California is to be open fully in person. But legislators also recognize that there may be a few students or how many ever students in some districts that are not able to be in person due to just personal conditions. And that's the conversation that's happening at the legislative level, because there was a conversation about who actually would be allowed to not be in person. We do have a virtual academy, so that makes it really easy for us, but we still have to wait for that legislation to see, because all of that legislation then will tell us if we, whether we have to ask people for reasons or we can just, ask them for interest. At this point, we have asked for people to share with us if they're interested, because we need that information for staffing at this point. Next slide. So our virtual academy parent interest survey is going to be sent out tonight. We had a presentation. I want to thank Educational Services for that presentation. We had about 113 people who participated. Lots of great questions. So that presentation is also available on YouTube. And we are going to, the survey that's going out is asking families to let us know if that's an interest for them for only TK7, because 8 and up have already registered for Virtual Academy, because that's that takes different steps and it requires different things. So that has already been taken care of. So you don't have to worry if your child is in 8th grade this year or 9th grade and up, because those students have already registered, have been taken care of. Next slide. That's it. So any questions you have, I'd be more than happy to entertain, and if I have answers.
Mike?
What was the enrollment for the virtual academy for secondary
For secondary for this year?
for next year?
Oh, for next year, at this point, we have about 70, a little over 70 full-time for high school. And then we have about 70 or about 75 a mixed. So some classes at Castro Valley Virtual Academy, some at the high school. So about 140 kids.
Great. And I just wanted to thank you. I just want to acknowledge that it's the end of the school year and we got through it. And a lot of it was just the staff here at this community that got us through it. And the Virtual Academy is a great example of that. And the fact that we are a demonstration and inspiring other districts and lawmakers around that says a lot about this district. So thank you for your leadership.
No, thank you. It was exciting to have actually Assembly Member O'Donnell and his team come and listen to the presentation. Our team, Patrick Hansen, Nia Rishichi, and Vivian did a great job. And I think what we're looking at is different than last year for elementary K7, because we wanted to make sure one of the things in legislation, not only because it's legislation, but we believe that we always need to improve and make sure that our programs are comparable and just as rigorous and supportive of students. So the way our elementary school curriculum actually is going to work is pretty phenomenal. Students will have live interaction in instruction every day for the different subjects. They will have specialty. I mean, it was just, I encourage everyone who's interested to watch the presentation to get some information, and we're always here to answer any questions. But as far as really just making it through this year, I have to say it has been an amazing journey, and everybody has a part of it. All of you for supporting all the work that needed to be done, our admin team here and at the sites, our classified, our teachers. I cannot be any more proud. I mean, it's just been incredible when I look at what's been accomplished. And every time I visit schools, last week, we had the Alameda County Board President and the superintendent visiting us. So we went to Marshall. They got to see students learning. They got to see our PE teacher, our physical education teacher, actually teaching online, because that's the physical education has been online. I mean, he's in a classroom, in a small room, really, with his computer on, practicing, rolling on the floor, showing kids, encouraging them, calling every student. It's absolutely just humbling to watch.
When I think of where we were a year ago and the anxiety of the unknown, it's really impressive how far we've come. I want to say thank you for having Safeway come and do the vaccinations. You know, the on-site vaccinations, the on-site COVID testing, the testing for teachers, all of that has made this community more comfortable with, you know, the situation that we're in. So thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Chan, who's arranged for this to happen Friday. Do we still need volunteers? We still need some volunteers for Friday. If anyone's.
Well, my son is graduating, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say no.
You're excused for sure. But I know I shared that at the Parent Leadership Council, and I know they were sharing it with other people, but we need a few more. But thank you.
Sure. It was really a tough year, and it's now looking so much better. It's really wonderful to see that probably next year we're gonna all be, well, we will be all full-time, 5 days a week. And I really think almost everybody will be super happy about that. And then there's the alternative for those that have reasons why they can't. And so I see the district really doing a great job with what we were handed and changing all the time and doing their best to, everybody doing their best to roll with the changes and move on. And now looks like we're coming out of it and out into the blue, happy skies.
Just want to add to everything that everyone else said. It's been a trying year or so for everyone all over the world. And when we look at facing adversity in a crisis situation and having people come together and not only do the right thing for safety, but do the right thing for equity and to help those in need and to continue to strive forward in the right way and in a meaningful way. And so I too want to thank you and your staff and our administrators and our teachers and our parents and our kids, because it's been a trying time and it is the end of Mental Health Awareness Month. So I just want to recognize, we've all been through a lot, and the social, emotional, and supports that we continue to drive in this community has really been helpful. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for a terrific report again. So I think we'll move on to item C, the personnel report, which was amended. Action item.
I'll move to approve the personnel report as amended.
Thank
I'll
you,
second.
Thank you, Lavender. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll here. Mike?
Yes.
Lavender?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Dot?
Yes.
I'll say yes. So the personnel report as amended was approved 5-0. Next item is a public hearing on the ratification of the MOU between CSEA Chapter 52 and the district. We'll open the public meeting. There are no requests to speak, so I'll close the public meeting and move on to item E, which is an action item to ratify the aforementioned MOU. You want to say anything, Dr. Beets?
Yep. It has gone through the process, the 610 process through CSEA. We have received a letter confirmation that it's all fine, good to go. So we are asking that you approve this and make everybody happy before they go home for the summer.
Very good.
I'll make a motion that we approve the adjustment in compensation.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lavender. It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll differently this time. Lavender,
Yes.
just to make sure we're all awake, even though I'm not. Dot?
Well, you really caught me off guard there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
And I'll say yes, so that approves the MOU 5-0. Thanks to everybody who worked on that.
And I just want to say a couple of words. I want to thank Dr. Beets for all of our hard work. It's amazing when you look at what's happening in the county, and I'm just excited to have this done and our folks moving forward. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you to the classified unit and to Dustin for working so hard on this. They're just a joy to work with. And then I'll go ahead, do the next item, and then I'll speak to that when you get to it. Go ahead to the next item.
So moving on to item F.
Yeah.
This is the similar, approve the adjustments in the MOU for confidential and management employees.
Getting bossy in my last few board meetings, huh?
I'm sorry?
I said I'm getting bossy in my last few board meetings. Just go to the next item. No. So the last item, this next item, our process has been once classified and certificated have settled, we usually do the same thing for management. So what you have before you in item F is a similar adjustment for management and confidential employees. Thank you.
Thank you. An action item?
I'll move approval of the adjustments in compensation for members of CSEA Chapter 52, confidential and management employees.
Thank you, Lavender.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dolly. It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. I'll be normal this time, I don't want to embarrass anybody. I'm sorry about that. Mike?
You can be whoever you want to be, Gary, but yes.
Lavender?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Dot?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. So that is approved 5-0. Thanks to all of you. Item G, review the admin reg 5145.9, hate motivated behavior.
Yes, this is an administrative regulation that actually follows our board policy that we've had, the BP 5146, hate motivated behavior. I want to thank Dr. Ryman, who worked very hard on this with me, and also trustees Lavender Whitaker and Dot Theodore for being a part of that conversation and really giving us great feedback and helping us with this draft. And we actually had it included in our board policy committee to just discuss. So unless there are any, we thought it was very important to have a very specific, clear guidelines and regulations related to hate motivated behavior, that to continue to create a safe and welcoming environment for everyone.
Anybody want to comment or on this? Dot?
Thank you, Parveen and Dr. Ryman, for all of this work. Yeah, we read it over, but there was so little that you left out. I mean, nothing really. It was maybe, spelling. You are so thoughtful in how you're leading this district, and I'm so proud to be a part of this community and working with you. Thank you very much.
Lavender.
I want to echo what Dot said. I mean, Parveen, Dr. Ryman, the work that you have done in this district to continue down the equity path and inclusion and belonging for our students, our families, and our community as a whole is a wonderful, great thing to do and the right thing to do. Thank you.
Mike.
Yeah, I've really grown to appreciate the values of our district. And when we think about this past year, to what Lavender was saying earlier, I think those values got us through this year. This is such a comprehensive and wonderful statement of our values as a community in a district. So thank you everyone for pulling this together. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that report. And, to Lavender and Dot and Jason and Parveen and others, thanks for working on that AR. It is an important thing. So we're happy to have that in our set of regulations. Move on to item H, approve expanded learning opportunities grant. Dr. Ryman.
So thank you for giving us some time to talk about the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant. As you probably already know, is a part of the COVID relief package that was approved by the state in March. There was an opportunity to bring in some more funds, specifically to help address the needs that occurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and any potential learning loss that might have happened with students. Especially, these funds are focused on serving students with the greatest need. We see the list here in front of us. It looks a lot like unduplicated pupils, our foster youth, our socioeconomically disadvantaged, English learners, but you'll also see other groups of students included as well. And basically any students who are negatively impacted as a result of the pandemic and any learning loss that occurred because of that. So funds can be expended in 7 different ways listed in front of you. If you look at this list, you'll see there's lots of overlap. And so you'll probably see that some of the items will be listed under one area, but really they could have been included in multiple different areas. So for example, learning recovery and integrated student supports to address barriers to learning. Obviously, there's lots of areas where programs could meet more than one of those requirements. However, they had to be categorized in one area or another. One of the areas where you won't see much listed, because we are a district that's going to be opening fully and we have provided lots of supports, as you won't see much around the learning hubs area, because most of those supports will be integrated into our regular instructional day. So specifically, we had lots of stakeholder input. We talked to most of the groups that we could think of that would want to give us input. We followed very much along the lines of the LCAP input process. Most of these meetings occurred side by side. So we spoke with everyone from the Equity Task Force, African American Parent Advisory Committee. Our MTSS teacher leaders are a group of teachers that are really leading the work around developing our multi-tiered systems of supports. Our collective bargaining groups, DLAC, Parent Leadership Council, and this was also a part of our LCAP Community Information Night, where we drew from parents and community members from around the district. We then asked a few core questions in terms of what our community would like to see, what our parents would like to see. We then aggregated all of that information, sat together in the Educational Services Department, aggregated all the information and made sure that all of the salient points were addressed. And those that weren't, we made sure that there was a good reason not to. In fact, what we found is that every point of input was either there or it wasn't a funding issue. It was something where it was something that didn't require funding or didn't apply to these dollars. So looking at the areas, I won't touch on every point specifically, other than to give you some general sense of the types of programs. There's more detail in the board packet, also in terms of these items. This is pretty much a comprehensive list of the programs that we're going to be providing, and it'll be broken up into the different categories. So when looking at it at the extended instructional day, we're looking at everything from expanding our library work, where you've seen already some of the great work that's happening in terms of the summer reading initiative. We're seeing more work in terms of wanting to have incentives and expanded access to online tools, and doing more work with students on how to conduct research using our library resources. There's lots of work going on in the summer. This is an area where it could have fallen in and does fall in multiple areas around curriculum development and common assessment planning as well. Our integrated student supports. And so these are areas where we're helping to beef up those MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, social emotional learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion work. As we've talked about before, and I think that's a great point, that it really is not just our values, but the systems that we put in place prior to the pandemic have helped to get us through a lot of these issues that may be related to learning loss. And we also think those systems, building them and strengthening them, will help us to address and identify the students who need more support as we extend past the pandemic and we move into a post-pandemic era. Some of the items that we're looking at specifically are making sure that the work that's done, for example, with the curriculum advisory team, where we're looking at having culturally and linguistically responsive materials, that we're able to purchase those meet the needs of all of the communities that we serve. Making sure that we have instructional software to meet the technological needs for students who may be utilizing instruction online. or who may be in person, but then using those lessons that we've learned through distance learning for in-person instruction, for homework, for example, and/or for supplemental resources. Another piece is looking at the 9th grade math and English class sizes and trying to reduce those class sizes. We would like to have smaller class sizes everywhere, but we know that one of the key pieces is for math and ELA in the 9th grade. And so we're doing some, reducing those sizes, not just for the reduction in size, but so that teachers can pay a little bit more attention in terms of implementing those MTSS supports when they see differences in performance on common assessments. And there are other pieces as well. As I said, I won't discuss every point, but those are just some of the highlights of the work being done there. In terms of professional development, this is really an area where we're investing a lot. In a lot of ways, this year that we've had with COVID has really slowed down a lot of the momentum that we built up to that point. If you remember, we were doing a ton of work around equity, building multi-tiered systems of support, and we've continued to do that work. However, obviously, kind of being pushed in another direction, having to respond to the needs of virtual instruction in the pandemic. We want to make sure that we're building up teachers to make those systems more robust, continue that work, and then deepen it, and continue building on the momentum that we had prior to the pandemic. And so you'll see this year, lots of professional development around equity and grading, including some online modules that teachers will be engaged in over the summer. We'll have some cohorts working on similar work and deepening work on equity and grading. SEL and anti-racism work groups, as well as TOSAs to help develop ELA, social emotional lessons, and social studies lessons to deepen that work and make sure that we're developing the best lessons possible. This will allow us to provide additional teacher coaching and develop those lessons also that we've heard so much about throughout the year and make sure that it continues when we return to in-person instruction. And so overall, as I was saying before, that the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant focus really is focused on strengthening equity, MTSS, and building site capacity to address learning loss. These are the systems that we know have been effective for our school district before dealing with COVID, during dealing with COVID, and we also know that they're proven to help us identify students in need and address their needs as we move to a post-pandemic period. So we'll be building up and building on the existing systems, lots of social emotional supports, restorative practices, and professional development to make sure that we're deepening that work and building stronger systems. All of this work will be equity centered. We've talked about the need to be persistent, proactive, and pervasive, meaning that our work needs to be ongoing. It should be forward thinking and nonstop. We don't engage in initiatives that are one and done, but these are multi-year initiatives that truly will spread throughout our school district to benefit all of our students. And so here is the expertise of Ms. Chan has helped me to put together this table in terms of the planned expenditures and shows the categories where we'll be spending the funds, beginning with extending instructional learning time. We see $611 spent on interventions, enrichment, tutoring, and reading programs, $700,000 spent specifically on programs to accelerate progress to close learning gaps. These will be things along the lines of after-school supports, supports that happen during the instructional day that will enrich students' activities, integrated student supports. This includes our social emotional supports, social workers, transportation needs, and some of the counseling that we've talked about being needed at all grade levels. We're spending an additional $2 million on additional academic services for students. There's a requirement in this grant to spend, I believe, is it $500,000 on paraprofessionals? We will be meeting that requirement. But in addition to that, we know that there's going to be additional technology needs, supplies, textbooks, and other learning materials for students. And then finally, professional development, as I spoke about before, leading into the school year, during the school year. And hopefully we want to extend this money into next summer because the grants funds don't need to be expended until August of 2022. And so there will be 1.3 million spent in that area for a total of the roughly $5.8 million for the entire expanded learning opportunity grant. And that brings us to a close. For any questions, ideas, comments that the board might have.
The professional development for teachers and the coaching, is there also going to be like mental health support for our teachers? Keep thinking about the trauma that we've all just gone through and are still going through.
That's an excellent point. That yes, that's something that we've been talking about with Marianne Meadows, whether or not that will be specifically a part of the professional development that's falling under expanded learning or not. It is going to be something that we're working on currently. And she's already started some of that work with Noelle and some others through the Wellness Center. But yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Sounds great.
Great. Thank you.
Great plan. Yeah.
So I'll move to approve the ELO plan.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? I'll make one comment, and I think it's really great that we're actually getting this money because we have a desperate need for this. And if we had to take it out of Hyde, because we would have had to do something, it would have been extremely difficult. So this is really terrific that we have the money. So any other comments? Okay, go to the vote. Mike?
Yes.
Lavender?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Dot?
Yes.
And I'll say yes, so we approve that grant 5-0. Thanks to everybody on that one. Thank you, Jason. Move on to item I, resolution 93.2021, the education protection account.
Yes, this is an annual requirement to submit to the board for approval, the spending plan for the 2021-22 education protection account. This is not additional money that we're getting. It's actually money that is merely replacing the general fund aid, the state aid, basically, on a dollar for dollar basis. And so this is, again, a requirement, and we will need to post it on our website, so it can be seen on, can be easily accessed by the public on the amount of the estimated revenue, which is $17.5 million. And we do, excuse me, we will be spending it all in teacher, instructional assistants, and computer support technicians.
Any comments or questions for Susie? It's an action item.
I'll move approval to adopt resolution 93/2021, the education protection account.
I second that.
Thank you, Dolly. It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Mike?
Yes.
Lavender?
Yes.
Dolly?
Yes.
Dot?
Yes.
And I'll say yes, so the resolution is adopted 5-0. Last item on our main agenda, the governors may revise. Can't
Yes.
wait.
Can't wait. Yeah, so the governor released his May revision on May 14th, and we did get a chance to attend quite a few. Everybody was really excited. Quite a few webinars on this. So we have different different versions, I should say, different versions of the presentation. So we'll highlight just a few of them that impact Castro Valley. There are certainly quite a few in the proposal. So the theme for the May revision, this is actually a few of the slides are from the School Services of California. So this first bullet here is what they call roaring back from the initial dark days of the pandemic. They also call it a V-shaped recovery. So we were up pre-pandemic and then down during the pandemic, and we immediately went back up. So that's why they call it a V-shaped recovery. Included in the governor's proposal is a lot of programs and so spending proposals with over 24 billion in reserves. So if you recall, last May revised last year, we were all talking about money being withdrawn from the reserves. And so now he's actually able to put that money back into the reserves. And then this is the proposal again for next year. A significant investments in the May revision, and also there are a lot of programs and increased revenues that you'll see highlighted. So you're familiar with this slide. This just shows you the Proposition 98 from 2008-9 fiscal year all the way to 2021-22, which is the year that we are looking at in terms of preparing our budget. So in 21-22, you're seeing an increase, Proposition $98 there of $93.7 billion. And this is a comparison of the governor's budget back in January when we presented to you what he was proposing at that time compared to what he's proposing now with the additional money that he did, like all of us did not anticipate. There is about $75.7 billion in terms of revenue that the state received. And so with that $75.7 billion, he is proposing a $3.2 billion for the LCFF. This is a funding increase from $2 billion to $3.2 billion. And then you'll see our funding is they always look at 3-year period, which is in prior year 1920, the current year, and the next year. And so you're seeing those different dollar amounts there. The statutory COLA is $1.7 million, 1.7%. And the reason why, if you're seeing at the bottom, there's 5.07 is because what he's done is, in the proposal is, he wanted to put in the account for the 2.31% COLA that we would have received this year. But in fact, he actually took that out. But he said that 2.31% is what we received, but then he backed that out. So essentially, it's a zero COLA for us this year. So he wanted for us to at least get that for next year. So he took the 2.31% in the current year plus the 1.7. And then so that gives us a compounded COLA of 4.05. In addition to that, because of the additional money, he wanted to give us a 1% mega COLA, what he called a mega COLA. So that's why we're looking at LCFF COLA of 5.7%. There's a note at the bottom that it's only LCFF that's getting the 5.07. The rest of the Proposition 98 are either going to get the 4.05% or just the 1.7% COLA. So in terms of the LCFF funding factors, as you know, we are funded, our local control funding formula. There's a base grant per ADA, and you see those listed there. Applying the 5.07% mega COLA, It gives us the base grant per ADA, and then there's an adjustment. That grade span adjustment is that GSA, what that stands for. There is, as you know, a 20% supplemental grant that we received. Castro Valley receives, actually all districts, based on the unduplicated pupil percentage or unduplicated pupil count. And then on top of that, districts that have unduplicated pupil percentage above 55%, they get an additional amount. And so I noted at the bottom there, it wasn't part of the school services, but I wanted to note it. Included in the governor's proposal is an additional $1.1 billion in ongoing funding for concentration grant districts only. So doesn't apply to us because our unduplicated pupil count is below that 55%. So I wanted to note that for you in case you're hearing that districts are getting a lot more, not ours because of our unduplicated pupil count. So we just don't fall in that category. So I'm just to highlight for you the major programs that's in the proposal. Again, these are proposed. This is a proposal that we will wait until the governor actually signs the budget at the end of June, which is next month. A $2.6 billion for a new grant. We call it a new grant, but it's really, it's a supplement, right, to the expanded learning opportunities grant that you just approved. He's setting aside another $2.6 billion for that. In addition, it's a $2 billion for the in-person instruction grant, which is, again, this is, we did receive the in-person instruction grant this year, so he is proposing to give us another grant next year. We are hearing that there's some pushback from the Senate and Assembly on the $2 billion in-person instruction grant. As you know, this is still a proposal, so we will see, if this moves forward. The $1 billion for summer and after school program is actually what I mentioned in that previous slide. This is only for concentration grant districts. And then we have there's a $900 million, and this is not for next year, but really it's the year after, starting the year after, for the universal transitional kindergarten. This is a transitional kindergarten expansion. And it included in this proposal is actually it reduces class size to 12. So right now it's 24, and it with this additional money, the proposal is to reduce class size by half. Let's see, before I move on to the next slide, I do want to note that there is a $3.3 billion educator workforce, is what they called it. It's actually training to build a teacher pipeline and professional development. So there's a $3.3 billion for that. And what's not included in this proposal is additional relief for CalPERS and CalSTRS. If you recall last year, the governor, because of the reduction in revenue or their estimated revenue for this current year, what he proposed is to reduce the rates that help the district in the current year and next year. So what's not included is additional relief. So the rates that help all districts in the current year and next year will continue, but then the year, so after next year in 22-23, we're back to the rates that we are used to seeing, which is about 26%, 20%, and all that. Currently, the rates for next year for CalSTRS is 16.92. Again, that's in without the relief, it will be 20% in the 22-23, and then CalPERS is 22.91% next year, and then it will go up to 26%. So cash flow, and we mentioned this at the governor's proposed budget in January. So he is going to pay down or eliminate the ongoing deferrals, which is really good, because I know that you approved a resolution about a month ago, because we know that we are anticipating a negative cash balance at the end of this month or possibly next month. With the elimination of the ongoing deferrals, again, these are just deferrals for February through May of 2022. The deferrals this year stayed, did not make any changes to that. But we are happy that he is actually eliminating February through May, hoping that he will find more money to eliminate June deferral as well. And that's still about $2.6 billion. And then this is a slide that I just wanted to just share with you. We thought that it was really important just to see districts experiencing enrollment decline. So the change from last year to this year, it's about 160,000 students compared to an estimated loss of 20,000 to 30,000 annually. So that's huge. So definitely an impact on Castro Valley. And as we reported as the second interim report, we've highlighted the adjustment in revenue that will potentially be, the impact in the, not next year, but the year after. Because right now, and the reason for that is because the governor held us harmless on ADA, which is average daily attendance, in the current year, which then benefits us for another year. The third year, unfortunately, we're back, and I'm not hearing that he's holding us harmless. There's no conversation about that. And so the change in our enrollment will impact us in the second year, which is 22-23. Okay, so what does the LCFF change mean for Castro Valley Unified? So if we look at that grade span and also how we project our projection for ADA, average daily attendance, we are going to be in 21-22, 8,976 ADA. And then with the 5.07% COLA, our funding per ADA is at close to 9,600 per ADA. So that brings to a projected LCFF revenue to $86.1 million. And this is an increase of $1 million from the governor's proposed budget that you saw as a second interim. Again, that was the COLA at that time was 3.84%. And now we're looking at a 5.7% COLA. So in terms of comparing it from this year to next year, that LCFF per ADA funding that you see close to 9,600. In the current year, we're at 9,153. So that's about $438 more per ADA that we will receive next year with this proposal of 5.7% COLA. And then I think that's my last slide. Happy to answer any questions.
Like,
your job terrifies me, and I'm so grateful you're here, Susie, because you really help explain this in a way that is helpful. So thank you. I had two questions. When we look at where were we last year, can you paint the picture of, because there were cuts, or we were looking to cut our budget, right? So the fiscal situation is a huge delta from this year and last year, correct? And then if you look at ADA is always going to be lower than your enrollment because enrollment is your total number. Are we getting any data to have any sense of where our enrollment is going, or is it too fluid of a situation right now?
Yeah, let me answer the first question. So where we were last year, so I mentioned earlier about the May revise, we were looking at the proposal at that time was a 10% reduction. So what we did is we did the board approved reductions to help mitigate the loss in funding. The governor ended up not taking out the 10% reduction, instead applied the deferral. So that helped all districts, including Castro Valley. So looking at the adopted budget to 45-day revise, we met our 3%, but it was all at the 3% in the third year. So with this additional funding, which is COLA, right, an increase in the COLA, it's really helping increase our reserves in the third year.
Yeah.
And then
and I was going to say, and that's why it helped us to be able to do the increased compensation for our.
And are there any policy solutions we're hearing out there about reforming ADA, or are we just expecting we're going back to ADA? It's just not, it won't just be a Castro Valley issue. It's a state of California issue, and it's some adjustment to how we fund our schools.
Yeah, so that $160,000 loss in students, right? That's on entire California, so that definitely were impacted. We've always in the Castro Valley, it's not like other districts, surrounding districts that have lost a lot of kids. Really, 2020-21 current year is the first year that we've lost kids. So we do have historical data. We are still looking at, we're hoping that we can get students back. I know that we're staffing based on what we know currently, but it gets to, adjustments. We won't know until we actually have the students here. But what we have in the budget is stable enrollment, right? So if there's any type of an adjustment, an increase, then we will adjust our revenue. And if it's not, then obviously other things will need to happen.
Not a question, but just a comment about the state investment in early childhood education. I think is really exciting, the universal TK. It provides our students an opportunity at a younger age to be exposed to positive learning environments, at the same time provides parents an opportunity to work. So, as we talk about wanting to support families with childcare, not that I ever want to consider public education childcare, that really is an opportunity for young students and parents. So it's a real win-win, and I hope to see more of that happen.
So I want to go back to the enrollment piece, because to be very careful, Susie has actually included the fact that we lost about 190 students in our budget moving forward. And hopefully we'll have some of them back. So that's about how many we lost this year. I wanted to actually talk about the TK expansion. The way you described it is beautiful. The way it's going to happen is problematic, because you just mentioned it needs to be all day for families to work. For most of our schools, it's halftime. The other piece is space. When they say 12 students per classroom, that means you have to build classrooms, and he knows that. So that's why there was a lot of pushback against this policy, unless he can actually, they can support us in that way. So I think it would be amazing to have full day TK wraparound services for everyone. But I'm worried that for most districts, there won't be enough space, physical space, to expand to the degree or have all day, because that needs like physical classrooms. And then of course you need teachers. We all have trouble hiring new teachers. So like I said, the way you described it is the way I would wish. And we'll see if we can push in that direction. So any conversations we have with legislators, keep reminding them that, yep, but then we need to have money to build, to have classrooms.
I tend to be a rose-colored glasses kind of human, so I appreciate the balance of reality that you provide. Thank you.
Any, Dolly?
Is it this COLA that is somewhat making it possible that like class reduction size for ninth graders for math and English?
Yeah.
Is it related?
Yeah, that one's out of the extended learning grant.
Oh, that's out of yours. Okay, the extended learning. And do we also, it's just sort of a second question, do we have any indication, anybody of, let's say, how many of the kids who left during COVID will come back to public school or back to school or whatever?
I think we have some data where some of them went. When you talk about the 160,000 kids that we lost, they're saying some have moved out of state. Some have gone to different opportunities, but there are also, not in our district that I know of, but in large districts, there are students that have not been checking in and no one knows where they are technically. Not that they've disappeared. The concern is, especially in rural districts, that, you know, if they didn't check in and they're not coming to school, what's happening? So it's really tragic.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, another factor that's out there is, at least I understand in the last year, I'm not sure, because we're usually talking about children that are at least 5 years old before we see them, but there's a significant decline in the birth rate. And I think that actually it's just gotten worse in the last year, but there's been a decline in California and US birth rate over the last years. And that is a long-term problem for everybody.
For everybody, yeah, and that was expected. One thing that you just reminded me of is that they're saying a lot of families who had kindergarten students, they did not register them. They figured school is not open, I might as well just keep them at home or in programs that are full day. So yeah, that's why, honestly, like, this is why it's so important to have TK. It's so important to have kindergarten, but to have it where families can actually go to work.
Any other comments? I'll make one more. I mean, I think that overall, there's a lot more money flowing into the system, and that's good news. But one thing I heard in there that's a little bit troubling, I think, is that a fair chunk of that money is going to districts that already get the supplemental grants and so forth. And you know, I think that's good in many ways, but I also see that as maybe we're going to be at a further disadvantage depending on how that money is used. We've always been at a disadvantage because of where we are. This could exacerbate that problem, so that gives me some concern. But I am glad that there's a lot of money coming in. That's good news. Any last thoughts? Thanks very much, Susie. Appreciate your efforts and your information. Helps a lot. We'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Don't have a whole bunch of reports other than there are lots of happy things happening. Watching students walk across the stage. This morning we were there for Roy Johnson's graduation. It was beautiful. This afternoon for Redwood, and you know, all the virtual for promotions at middle school and elementary schools are happening. And on Friday, we have our Castro Valley High School graduation. So exciting.
So Lavender?
I have to say that I have not participated in many things of late. Weekend of the 15th, I saw my mother for the first time since we're both fully vaccinated, and was helping her around the house quite a bit. So I was busy doing that. And And then I was with Dot, Amy, and Parveen on the 19th for the board policy subcommittee. Big packet, not the biggest I've seen, but big packet. A lot of great stuff in there, a lot of great comments and improvements. And that's it for me, except for congratulations to our Redwood High School graduates. I was very happy to see them graduate today. Thank you.
Thanks, Lavender. Mike?
I'd like to apologize to my fellow board members. I have an extensive list. First, I went to the Parent Leadership Council. That was our last Parent Leadership Council for the school year. It's where parents from and guardians from our various parents club, PTAs, etc., check in and tell us how they're doing. And it was really a great opportunity to hear them reflect on how they got through this year, how they were resilient. And I'll just make a pitch to anyone who's out there listening. Please become a member of your PTA or your parents club. It's important to be a part of that. I need to make a shout out and thanks to Dr. Ryman for the Equity Task Force. I have been so moved by so much of what our district is doing, and this one really hit me. As I reflected on in the session, we were talking about, really understanding history and how we would do some of the anti-racism work in our curriculum. And as someone who, grew up in Virginia, I learned a lot about Virginia history that I never learned in Virginia. So I just want to thank you for that and continuing that conversation and that important work. The Castro Valley Educational Foundation, we met up. They are trying to bring on new members of their board, and I'll make a pitch right now. Please support the Educational Foundation and please consider being a part of it as they try to, pass out scholarships and support programming throughout the district. They are a partner that we need supported in our community. I went to my first Master's in Governance. Thank you, Amy. I'll schedule the other one soon. And I was really fun to meet with other board members throughout the state and to learn about bargaining and HR issues in the school district. I went on 4 school visits. I'm happy to announce that I got to 4 schools since our last meeting: Independent, Creekside, Van Noy, Palomares. And today we were at Redwood, but I'm going to go back in the fall for a proper visit. But these visits have meant so much to me and helped me really appreciate just the diversity of our leadership at our schools. And I was blown just in speaking with Miss Eagles and in walking through the campus and hearing how she supported the mental health of middle school kids. That really touched me. Hearing Ms. Della Torre and talk about her experience as not speaking English and finding a National Geographic, and that inspired her, and that was her catalyst to learn, and that's really reflected in her own service. And it was great to see that she won that award tonight. All of these visits have just meant so much to me, and I look forward in the fall to really go see Redwood, go to Alma, and check out our adult school. And then lastly, I was at the Roy Johnson graduation event today, and really had a great time. I want to make a shout out to Pete. If you need to learn anything about numbers, you need to talk to Pete. He's a graduate of Roy Johnson, and he was the MC today. And it was really fantastic to have some time to speak with Erica Amon, who's leading the district after, I believe, 13 years. And really, I appreciated some of her insight she gave me about Redwood. And I just also want to make a shout out to Vanessa and Annika and the office staff who spoke with me. So that's what I did. Thank you.
Okay, so I did a few things. I wasn't able to do any more visits to schools other than, of course, being at Redwood High School graduation today, graduation is always the happiest day of the year in the high schools. And it was really good to, before the ceremony began, be able to go around to all the people that I know there and say hi and talk to them and see how they were doing. And it's a great day to do that too, because everybody's so happy. And it was a beautiful day on campus there on the quad. Just kind of looks built really for having a graduation there. Let's see, I did a couple of other things. I went to a meeting that is doing some planning on pedestrian and bike paths and for our streets. This is like a planning group that then is going to put together a training for our area. So they're picking a couple of streets that have, high amounts of accidents on them, either pedestrian or with bikes, and have picked a few routes. So we were up to that point in that group at this point, and Bruce Dougie was there. And then I also went to the Special Ed Parent Advisory Council. That was really good. We had some parents there and they were able to express their views on what they'd like to see special ed do for kids. And there were a few that were resource and there were a few that were special day class parents. So that was good to have a good rounding of parents. I think I also sent a letter to Alameda County about the CV sanitary building district. There was a meeting today. I don't actually know what happened or how that vote came out, but I sure hope it was good, because the plans for that, which were presented at the Castro Valley MAC, seem to be really very beautiful plans with natural gardens and using recycled water and little seats. And I could just envision really the kids from Marshall and the kids from Independent and maybe even Creekside being able to have like field trips to go there and see those and sit with their teacher and, talk about these things. And previous to that, I did go see, not go, actually, it was in my house. I saw Chinatown Rising, and I was able to participate or be there for the discussion group that was on Saturday, I guess the 15th.
Right. Well, I also have not done a lot representing the district, but did help to facilitate the Q&A for Chinatown Rising, and it was really great. I watched the film with my family and they all enjoyed it. And my daughter was actually really excited that Mr. Chuck was going to be at the Q&A. And she's like, oh, why couldn't this be in person? So it was really cool to be able to talk to him and also hear from our community about what their thoughts on the movie. And then the board policy subcommittee meeting, which was as it always is.
Okay, so I was at the retirement ceremony for the district employees a few days ago, including our own assistant soup for HR back here, retiring. And with Mike was at the Roy Johnson graduation today, and then with everybody at the Redwood High School graduation. So I have one more thing to mention, and that is coming up on June 8th. I want to make sure everybody is aware of this. This is a joint presentation between Rotary and Castro Valley Science. It's Project Ice Cube. It's at noon on that day, and it'll be a Zoom meeting, obviously. Project Ice Cube is a research project at the South Pole, and we will be on live with scientists from the South Pole talking about their project, which is a neutrino trap, for those in the know here. But also just what it's like to live and work at the South Pole in the winter with over 23 hours of darkness, and it's pretty darn cold down there. So that's at noon on June the 8th, a Tuesday, and we appreciate the help of Castro Valley Science on making that work. So if you're interested, go to the castrovalley.rotary.org and you can register there. We would appreciate it if you register. It doesn't cost anything. We just like to know whether we have to lay on additional Zoom capability. So that's all I have. So I'll say thanks to everybody for attending tonight. Thanks to our guests. And pardon? You want, and we're going to go back into closed session right after this. But thanks to everybody for attending. Thanks in particular to Amy for making this work tonight. Keeping us working, all of us. So thanks to everybody and good night. Good evening. We're back from closed session and back into open session. And I'll just announce that the board took no action during closed session. And I want to thank everybody again for being with us and being here, and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much and good night.